Hey, goodness gracious. Let's talk, okay? Hi, my name is Sakai and welcome to the podcast. As you can see, I'm a little disheveled, and that's okay. That's okay. What's been going on, Sakai? That's a great question. Thank you for asking. Because, you know, mm, mm, good soup. Wow, amazing. Procrastination, right? It's a beautiful drug. It's a wonderful, destructive Quasimodo. I don't know what I'm saying right now. Your boy has been grinding, okay? Has been vibing, okay? To the sound of 7 university classes at once in a semester. The hell? The what? My marbles have been lost for about 3 months now. And I've experienced a lot of things. So let's talk about it. I have not pre-planned this, okay? If you thought my last one was chaotic, welcome to the club, okay? We've done 0 research in this one. This is just gonna be me kind of venting, but low-key hitting on some points, okay? So I'm going to structure this in 5 points. Let's do it this way, right? Let me get a little comfortable. Okay. All right. Great. So, 1, I'm going to talk about distractions. 2, I'm going to talk about the attention economy. 3, I'm going to talk about the impact of algorithms on our mind. 4, I'm going to talk about decision making and how my personal experience of going through the semester has been hell. 5, I'm going to talk about regrets and how, damn, this is regretful as hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa. Like, where do we go? You know? I forgot what the hell. Okay, distractions. So, don't you love your Instagram? Don't you love your work? But you love your Instagram more, right? Exactly. And that's why we on Instagram. That's why we on TikTok. You know, I was a little happy when it was banned because, like, you know, damn, I didn't have to deal with it anymore. Now, people could maybe be a bit more free, but obviously everyone started freaking out and was like, what's the next fix? Where's my dopamine? And everyone's crazy, right? Everyone's crazy. And it never ceases to amaze me how quickly we jump from this to that to this instead of being productive, instead of getting our work done. And I know that many of us have an inner drive to really accomplish things in life, to really get some stuff done, to really change some things, to really metaphorically move mountains. You know what I'm saying? And we fly away like a little bug. Okay. And I just think that, like, it's really hard, right, to focus in today's world. And what is, like, the main problem, I think, is social media. I find that we're going to do some live research, okay? We're going to do some live research. And I'll talk about the tools that I use when I, get famous and everything, and I tell you all my secrets. I'm just going to tell you them, in another episode, but nonetheless, I will make sure to check up on that. We'll check up on that. Okay. So, one of the sources that I'm reading, which is, from Barna, it is a article from 2021, talking about half of Gen Z feel bad about the amount of time spent on screens. Exactly. Thank you, article, for affirming my thoughts. It's over 50% feel that technology is a cause of distraction. We all do. We acknowledge it. We see it. But this is the thing, right? We are in an attention economy. But we're going to get that in our second point. Okay, we're going to get that in our second point. So when we see that, we refer to things as brain rotting, first of all, hold on, pause. Brain rotting? That's what we're going to call doom scroll. Oh, doom scrolling? That's what we're saying? Do we hear the vocabulary we use? We're self-aware. We understand what the problem is, And that's what makes it so infuriating. That's what makes it so problematic. We're out here, barbecue sauce on our pectorials, just minding our business, but rotting our brains while doing it. And I think that that's really disheartening. And this article also says that, a majority of Gen Z and young adults think that they spend too much time on screens. And I'm glad that people are actually actively doing something about that, right? A friend of mine, Joseph Mitchell, you can follow him, Joseph, that's Joseph to the period, Mitchell with a little underscore. He does like 50 different businesses. Bro is cooking, okay? The entrepreneurship school is so happy to have him. I'm happy to have him. We're all happy to have him. We saw his pop up at the expo. If you were there, you were there, and he ate. Okay? And he was talking about how he's revitalizing. He's putting his fist down, okay? And foot. And making sure that it's explicitly clear. He's done with distractions. He's done procrastinating. He's unhappy with how he's looking. He had made this quote. I think he forgot where he got it from, but he quoted someone saying how if there was 1,000 people, like 100,000 people watching, would you be happy about what people seeing your life and what's going on if they knew your goals? And I thought that was profound. I mean, it's a very simple scenario, but it really brings into perspective, not necessarily the social judgment aspect. That's not what we're focusing on, right? We're focusing on the actual accomplishment, the legacy, right? And that's what Joseph is concerned with. So he's starting a series where he's going to hold himself accountable and push on and rock on. And there's going to be times, where you fall off. Hey, you get back up. That's what it's about. It's not about, hey, I just got defeated. It's about stepping back up, right? So I have a lot of admiration for him. I would definitely look into him, give him a follow if you're interested. He's a vibe, okay? He's a vibe. And you'd be really interested in his businesses too, okay? They're diverse, okay? Anyway, I just think that, overall, these distractions are crazy. He deleted Snapchat. Damn, I'm happy for him. TikTok, Snapchat. I'm not really into social media, so it's only big social medias I know. Wow, but I mean, those are the generally main ones. Instagram, right? They all are full of just scrolling, and I just think that, as an academic, right? We're all about learning, and it would be one thing if you're scrolling on Khan Academy or Udemy or oh my gosh, that brain thing. What is the brain thing that they always advertise at the end of the things? Someone's gonna yell at me in the comments. It's fine. It's fine. You know what I'm talking about. The brain help worky thingy, that app or whatever. It might come to me randomly. It would be terrifying. But I think that from that educational academic standpoint, it would be one thing if we were doom scrolling that. It wouldn't be doom scrolling anymore. It would be learn scrolling or brain rising instead of brain rotting or something. I don't know. Brain growing. Copyright TM registered. And that's really important, right? To if you are going to be distracted, make good distractions. I like this, right? Follow my train of thought. ADHD, autism, the two things that I have. When we think about as neurodivergent people, how do we pursue, right? How do we pursue better helping our situation? Because we can excuse as much as we want, but things have to get done regardless, right? You have to be productive in life. You have to live. So I've always thought to myself to make distractions learnable, to make distractions helpful, to distract myself with things that I need to do at some other point so I can be productive constantly. I might not be productive on the thing I want to be productive in or should be productive in, but at least I'm doing something that's a net benefit. Social media has none of that, right? None of that. Your phone has barely any of that. And I think that that's the main issue, you know? And there are certain things that you can do that derive benefits from. I'm sure that you can find your occasional TikTok girly, your occasional TikTok boy who comes in with their, informative information, such as Joseph Mitchell, such as all of the different people that I follow on social media, that I try and surround myself with informative content. However, right, that's not the majority of them. It just simply isn't. We all know this. Some other research I have: the University of Nebraska Journalism and Mass Communications published a article titled "Gen Z and Digital Distractions in the Classroom: Student Classroom Use of Digital Devices for Non-Class Related Purposes." And it says that 19% of class time is used for non-academic purposes, averaging over 9 distractions per school day. Some students would eliminate distractions entirely if incentivized with credit. That's a very interesting statistic and motivation, right? This is influencing us not just in our present time as teens, right? As people who are, most of my audience, I would presume, are university students. Most of us are here in this academic world, or if you're an adult, but impacting us in elementary schools. And this has been clear. But let's just yap about it. It's crazy that we have to think about iPad kids. It's crazy how we have to think about children knowing a variety of different things that they shouldn't be knowing at like 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, this is pervasive how distractions are accruing. Let's get to point 2. The attention economy. The attention economy, right? The attention economy is voracious. That's a great word. You might be asking, what does that mean? Zakai, what does that mean? I don't know. Voracious. Voracious. Wanting or devouring great quantities of food. Having a very eager approach to an activity. Yes, and I think that it's used in a negative kind of way. Like, I would presume that you would need Ozempic if you're a voracious. Anyway, I just think that it's the attention economy, right, is a monopolization of the industry. We live in a world where attention is, the coinage. And I say that to say that, our lives as people who are trying to be productive are literally being monetized to be distracted. And it brings me to a weird paradoxical conundrum. And this is just straight off the dome, okay? Let's not get my political science majors to beat on me, okay? Leave my ass alone, all right? But let's think about it. In the totality of the situation, we live in a capitalistic society, yada, yada, yada. But the point is, we need to be productive. Right? And we need to be valued for that productivity. And this is through free commerce, free economy. But why is the monetization of our attention to lead to improductivity the source of the value that we get of being, quote unquote, productive? Why is being productive to businesses now to distract us? These main corporations, Google, Meta, Apple, etc., literally design their systems, software, and hardware to distract us. What does that say about our economy? What does that say about our government? What does that say about our society when the literal means of being productive, the most fruitful and beautiful exchange of this economy, at least in my opinion. And the goal of education, the goal of businesses and work, of entrepreneurship, is being usurped by, these huge companies that are selling us for our eyes, our eyeballs. Oh goodness. Like it's disgruntling. It's startling. It's not demure. It's not mindful. Jeez, the smoothie's really getting to me today. I just got off of a little bit of a cold, so I think I'm a little kooky. I haven't been around people in 6 days. Anyway, right? We're talking about the economy, the attention economy. It is clear from the get-go that this is what's happening. So when we talk about, the distractions and suffering and the procrastination and the development of all of these issues with ADHD, etc., like we're literally being monetized in this hamster wheel of a cycle to do this, and I think that yes, I'm doing all of this right now. Let's do more research on the attention economy. I think that all of this comes to a head with, the younger generation, the people who are being tested on. So the attention economy was coined by Herbert A. Simon? Okay, my bad. Who described attention as the bottleneck of human thought. That's a beautiful, great one. These are from the Wikipedia page on attention economy. Excuse me, the United Nations Economics Network article titled New Economics for Sustainable Development, Attention Economy. This is a beautiful graph. Oh my goodness. Wait, let's talk about this. Let's read up on this. Wait. This is really interesting. I actually really like this. Whatever this is, I really like it. I definitely think that this is like my new side thing for the podcast. I love this. But nonetheless, one of the great factoids that I've heard is the Gen Z has the attention span of a goldfish or less, which is like 10, 15, maybe 7 seconds. And that's crazy. And maybe that's a bit extreme. I think that we all know that we can be focused on things, but we can also be very easily distracted. And I really want to research more about the rates of attention disorders within our society. But something that was mentioned a few times over a variety of either my podcast or other media that I've consumed is talking about the influx of information and how that leads to this kind of attention deficit. And I think that that's a really interesting point. And when we look at what is happening in how the media industry is, creating its algorithms and cycles and designing its software, it's not only negatively affecting the very core tenets of being productive in a society, but also creating a corruption within us to continue biting the dust. You know what I'm saying? And that's terrifying. I think that it's really interesting. Just the whole implications of this article is nuts, for lack of better words. Let me see if I can open this in. Yes. Okay. Great. Let's do this. Yes. Okay. Great. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. We're cooking. So, let's read up more on this United Nations article because it has 13 pages, and I'm super interested to see what more it could tell us about the information that it's giving us. So, one thing that quickly points out to me about this article, is that the attention economy can't be actually derived, right? And that with the digital age, information has become virtually free. Our understanding of the world, as I said before, the information that we consume is just huge, and we don't have enough space for that, right? So we see these platforms building these models, and we can see that according to this article, it says that the attention economy is valued at trillions of dollars, right? So let's see what more does it have to say. Okay, so it's talking about impacts and risks. It says that platforms wield a disproportionate power, stifling competition and manipulating public discourse, algorithmic promotion of polarizing content. I love this. We've heard so many issues about Twitter having like a alt-right kind of pervasiveness within its algorithms, and this is not a political platform. I'm going to always stray away from direct politics talk. Everything's politics, but I will say that it's been spoken about. Things like that have been spoken about, and it's not far-fetched to go to different media outlets that are definitely leftist, right? So there's definitely algorithms that are feeding your minds. As I said in the previous podcast, you are getting less and less critical thought and critical control over what you're consuming. So I think this is a really good point, and it brings up how polarizing our current state of the world is. Traditional media and journalism are undermined by ad-driven platforms that monopolize attention and revenue. That's interesting. I love that point. I have heard of this, how we see in our world that there is a implication of pop kind of People magazine kind of energy. No hate to People magazine, but like Young and the Restless type, you know what I'm saying? Like the soap opera cue, there's a pervasiveness of this, the world has been changed into, searching for the facts and whatever, to that catchphrases and headlines, right? To even worse, to just plain disgusting content that's completely manipulated. And with the advancement of AI, has anyone seen or tried the new Monday ChatGPT thing, or have tried the new image generation? Like, brother. So another thing that it talks about is the social and psychological. Okay, the constant engagement models increase stress, addiction, and information overload. I love that. I don't love it, but I love that. It's a great point. The amount of personal stress that I've garnered from realizing that I'm on social media and have other things to do is insane, right? But that's about the regret points that I will get to later. Algorithms favor virality over truth, right? There's a pervasiveness of algorithms to be very much catchphrasey, clickbaity, to be very much sensationalist, to be very much politicalized and polarizing. And this is a huge problem. And something I recently talked about in a speech I was recording for Effective Speeching was how I think that music streaming platforms should be regulated and should be more expensive. And part of that regulation that I think that music streaming platforms should have, right, is to allow for people to have control and curation of their content, to be more critically thinking about what they're consuming instead of just letting algorithms run for them, or not truly devolving and diving into an artist's content. And design algorithms that are more about really developing artists at the expense of not being as attentive seeking, right? I think that there needs to be a careful balance. And even in like the way that we see media today, right? And how podcasts go and how YouTube videos go, everything's a lot more flashy and wom wom and bam bam. But I think like a lot more raw, devolving layers, just pure kind of a face, right, to media would be a lot more refreshing, and I enjoy it personally more. That's why I record my podcast this way, one take, no edits, just clarifying the audio and cleaning up some of the discrepancy or issues. I might bring more text or share my screen or something of that nature, but I'm not looking to do more than talk and invite content into my mind, look at facts, look at opinions, look at different claims and things, and then discuss and speak my mind on those things. And we have so many, like, the algorithms promotes those candidates, right, that just talk about what you would call it. Well, sorry, I shouldn't even be saying that. They don't talk about anything. right? They'll just like show content on their screen and just react to it and basically say nothing, you know, like even what I'm doing right now, you know, like I'm looking at this article, I'm reading through some parts, looking at headlines, looking at little bullet points, talking through certain things, asking different AIs and different things to process stuff. But I'm not just reading it out to you, right? I'm giving you a more informed opinion. I'm giving you perspective. I'm giving you nuance. I'm adding new ideas to it. I'm adding new content. I'm actually manipulating the creative material that I'm using. And it's like, cool, you know, that's what we all do. That's life. But these creators just stick their face on it and scream. Who calls these people out? Jack's Films. I will shout him out if he shouts me out. That'd be crazy. Like, oh my God. So he's a great guy. That's, you know, pushing for the rightful use of content, and I deeply appreciate him. And I'm sorry for what happened between him and that girl. Anyway, let's go to the final bullet point here. Legal and ethical, human design twins, digital replicas built from predictive and behavioral data. Yeah, I've heard of this where there's a creation of your persona basically, and it's sold. I remember hearing some guy talking about how Facebook can get around $240 out of you. It's crazy. Like we are being assigned numbers. Like this is what is this? The 1960s, 50s, 40s? Like what are we doing? Violations of privacy and autonomy are widespread, particularly in unregulated environments. Yeah, like I just brought up an example about that. See, I'm adding content. So let's quickly read through their proposed solution. Their proposed solution is called the Yellow Economy, a regenerative, intentional model centered on well-being, ethics, and sustainability. Key goals include a conscious design, minimize addictive engagement, align digital tools with user intentions, restore user agency over data and digital identity. See, wasn't I just talking about that? I'm serious. I didn't even read this part. This is great. Policy and governance, promote digital data governance frameworks, reform antitrust and consumer protection laws. I would also add just transparency. Like, let's be able to see this. Can we make it open source? Can we make it a GitHub repository? Like, I want to fork it. You know what I'm saying? Recognize attention and behavioral data as economic resources. I like that. New measurement models include attention value, digital well-being, and social impacts and economic indicators. Wow. Sustainability and inclusion. Link attention economy reforms with SDGs, which is Sustainable Development Goals, which I know any of my entrepreneurship majors, as well as my FGCU folks, so that's really cool. I like this. What a good idea. Interesting, United Nations. You're a group of people that tries to do a lot of things, but doesn't have the power to do much. Anyway, let's not get into that. Let's talk about procrastination. So you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're done, you're through, you don't want it anymore. You procrastinate, you know? You're so overwhelmed that you go back to the dopamine source. And that's what I feel like is a huge problem, is that when you're overwhelmed, when you're stressed, when you're overworked, you just quickly go to whatever to get your fix. And I think that needs to be looked at, and we need to be more careful with our bodies, with our minds. We just need to be more careful with how we deal with each other in these sensitive moments, and how we deal with ourselves in these sensitive moments when we're overwhelmed, when we're in that headspace, because it seems like we drift into our old ways, right? Excuse me. So that's what I think is really important, and how it goes back to me. And how it goes back to how I feel, right? In 2020, when COVID happened, it was hard for a lot of people. And I know that a lot of adults and boomers might think about how students had it easy. We could stay home, we could go on Zoom, we could just whatever. But I think it changed our psyche. It changed how we perceive things. It either made a lot of problems a lot worse, or developed new problems, or introduced habits that, you know, at this point, when we look back at how the world is moving and how we are moving, is problematic. we see an influence, right? A rise of cheating. We see a rise of AI and usage, and we see a lowering of productivity. We see a lowering of critical thinking. We see a lowering of just development in general. I had written an article, or a very long paper actually, on how education was treated in COVID-19. I might have that somewhere. Maybe I'd attach it on the YouTube video or something if anyone wants to look at it. It's a very interesting paper that I had written that kind of just goes over the intricacies of what happened during COVID and just some of the things that studies had shown. And one of the main things was just how teachers and students changed. They just radically changed. And from mindset to how they perceive things to how they developed. And a lot of students were set back grade points and never were able to recover. And grade inflation went crazy. So now everyone has a 4.0 GPA, and teachers laxed off on grading or were overwhelmed and just couldn't do anything. And it's not just teachers, because remember, the administration is what's over them. They have the most control, and many of them forcefully, make sure that students pass when they shouldn't, just to look good for the government. So it's a complex issue, and I kind of address it a little bit in my my paper there. But nonetheless, this all influences procrastination, and all developed procrastination. And I think COVID, for me, really went from 0 to 100 for me in how I perceived it. I was homeschooled. I've been homeschooled for a while, and it was, just college classes that I had to attend, but that was still like devastating, because somehow like it just developed all of these attention issues and etc. And funny enough, that's around the time that you will find yourself going into ADHD, truly seeing the bad side of autism kind of mode, when you're 15, 16, and just into that whole world. So it was different, right? And it was new, and it was strange, and it was regretful. And that's where it gets to regret. I don't know what stage we're at, 4 or 5 or whatever other things I wanted to say, but I'm just going to get to this, so I'll wrap it up. It's been 30 minutes. I hope you've enjoyed this. As a student, and as a person who wants to be very productive, very innovative, very creative, very informed, very wild, I love things in person. I wish everything was in person. I wish I could do all my classes, do my work right there in class, do everything in person. That would be so much easier for me. That's how I did it majority of the time. That's what worked for me, right? And having to do it alone and being a high achieving student, I'm more susceptible, right, to, not being studious, not being disciplined, not being diligent, not having the due process of being a true academician, right? A true person who's studying, who's working hard, who's really putting in the effort to make a change. And I never really built up those muscles. I did in some ways, in shapes and forms, but the cross-disciplinary nature of that, the try and synthesize it to different places, it just wasn't working, and it still isn't. And I was getting into a group, right? The university that I'm going to now, it's beautiful, it's great, but this semester really wrecked me because, and it's still wrecking me because I took too many classes, I bit off more than I could chew, and I've just been spiraling, and I haven't really given myself the olive branch to secure myself. I've just been keeping myself falling, and it's my fault. It's completely my fault, and there's no excuse for it. And I'm very happy to be in a situation where professors have been mostly willing to understand what's going on, but there's still going to be some terrible grades coming my way. It just simply will. I'm overwhelmed. I'm almost burnt out. I'm through, I'm very I hope that summer comes quickly, and I hope that I can get everything that I need to get done because I'm tired. And I love this. All of the classes that I'm taking, I love. They're beautiful classes. They're very informative. They're taught by very great people who are very successful. But I am not in the position where I get to love them and enjoy them and truly to savor the wine, to absorb the tannin, to tell if it's dry or wet. You know, it's just all lost to the grips of time. So I wanted to record this at 12 midnight after I do my last rush after working 7 hours to get and gather up some extra stuff for some assignments that I knew I couldn't even get done, to a few speeches and relevant things that I needed to post before midnight, already a day late, because I'm fed up with the setup, with the execution, and with what I've done. And I blame myself, and there is a lot of blame on me. And yes, it is my fault. But the big picture is that the way that the world works right now is not in anyone's favor if you're wanting to do this. If you're wanting to pursue this kind of studying vibe, this kind of academic whatever, the world right now is truly an attention economy and is truly valuing unproductivity to productivity, to being uncritical, then being critical, to being a not deep thinker and brain rotting, to being a deep thinker. And it's disgusting. It's deplorable. And I'm not trying to blame anyone. I'm just here to complain about it. And I think that it's important that we all acknowledge it. And we do and make steps to push us forward to try and stop it locally, in person, interpersonal, intrapersonal. And that's why I'm very happy to know people who are making changes, and I'm making changes. I'm not going to do this again. I'm going to take these next 2 semesters and rock it out of the park. I will succeed forward. I'm going to be making so many different Discord servers and so many different platforms, and have different podcast episodes and things talking about all of the work and the productivity that I'm done and all of the different tips that I have and techniques. But I'm just going to be doing everything that is, I'm just going to be correcting my mistakes and showing that I can be a true student and a true hard worker and someone who's diligent and is okay to and humble enough to acknowledge when they make mistakes and to really change. And that's what I want for everyone. And that's why I really made this, was to acknowledge, hey, things are not going wrong. It's kind of going in the trash can, but that's okay. Let's work on ourselves and let's move forward, because that's all we can do at this point. And, you know, that's all we need to focus on. And if we all do it, then change might happen. Who knows? Anyway, I will link down below all the different resources that I've linked to, all the different people I've spoken about. I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. I really did not expect to be doing this on a Tuesday, but, you know, I'm about to start my 15-hour grind. So, hey, you know, there's a great places ahead. If you're interested in a creative server that is about developing and promoting artists, specifically like drawing, visual, etc. artists, into different careers, into entrepreneurial lanes, and etc., message me, reach out. I might have a Discord server for you. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I have deeply enjoyed yapping into a microphone and staring at a phone. Thank you. See you laters.